This is Watch Dogs 2, a hacking, attacking, wacky, open world action game starring some super disaffected millennials. It'd basically be your life, but you can't dress this well. And here we are playing it on the PC. It's set in San Francisco, or at least a small-scale recreation of San Francisco, and it looks surprisingly good and earnest and honest and true to the city. We work right on the Embarcadero out here, and I was able to step outside and just grab some quick amateur shots of the Embarcadero to show you a quick comparison. But you'll notice the pier, the architecture, the way the road is set up, the train cars, the skyline, the bridge, all of that stuff is there. So if you've been to San Francisco, it'll feel familiar, and if you haven't, it's a nice piece of digital tourism. That said, big chunks are missing or truncated. The entire southern half of San Francisco, where I live, just doesn't exist. But then again, if you had to walk up the same hill I do every day, you'd wish it didn't exist also. It runs pretty well. Keep in mind, this was at a preview event, and this was on, specific spec'd out PCs for the game. And it ran consistently at a fairly high frame rate. In some of the more open segments, you could tell the frame rate would bog down a bit, but nothing detrimental to play. The real test is going to be when it's out in the open and we can play this game on all sorts of hardware configurations and see if it's just spec'd out for a certain type of GPU or if there's certain problems and outliers that affect how it plays. It's kind of just inherent to PC gaming. You don't know for sure until you can test every hardware configuration out there, and there's just a ton. What stood out to me was the improved mouse and keyboard controls that they're adding to Watch Dogs 2. So a lot of ports just kind of get the controls get mapped to a key, and that's that. And you have to navigate UI that feels like it was, built for a controller, like navigation with a stick and so on, or you can't navigate with a mouse in certain menus. And it's frankly pretty annoying, but we've sort of come to live with it on the PC. Watch Dogs 2 is getting full controls and UI adaptation for the mouse and keyboard. So every menu, be it the map or the phone app that pops up, everything, your weapon selection, everything can be controlled and selected with the mouse and keyboard. Also noteworthy is that every menu option will have a keyboard shortcut, so to speak, so a hotkey. And you can remap those as you like, but you can kind of, there's a hotkey for your inventory and hotkey for your hacker upgrades and so on. So if you've played a lot of RTS games or MMOs and you're used to using that right side of your keyboard, it's going to be welcome. And as far as mouse control goes, the mouse input is raw. So it's not tied to the frame rate. It's not reading the mouse input every frame the game is rendered. It's reading it on a hardware level. So what that means is there's less input lag. It's almost non-existent. And no matter how rough your frame rate is, your mouse look is not going to be jittery and stuck to it. So anywhere you point the cursor, that's where you'll be looking. There's not going to be any confusion between how it's read in that particular frame versus where you move your cursor. Also, just a bunch of small things that aren't really noticeable in the footage, but driving has been adapted to suit the keyboard controls as well. So steering sensitivity is a thing. When you're controlling with a stick, you can, tip the stick slightly to move slightly. It approximates a slight turn of the steering wheel, and then all the way over on the stick, approximates a couple turns on the steering wheel. With a keyboard, it's just on or off, so it's always tough. When you're accelerating, you're either accelerating all the way or you're not. And when you're turning, you're either turning all the way left or you're not. Just the on-off input nature of a keyboard. Here, they kind of added some interesting features such as steering sensitivity. So if you hold down left or right on the keyboard when you're steering, the longer you hold it, the harder it will turn. So if you hold down the key for a short second it'll read that as just a tap on the stick if you were steering with a stick. If you hold it down for like 1 second, it'll read that as halfway on the stick or something like that. And if you hold it for long, it'll read it as the entire stick, the stick going all the way to the end. And it's not a perfect solution, but it's better than nothing, and it's nice to see. Another example of this is if you're driving and you're tired of letting go of the acceleration or tapping the brake or whatever you have to do with a keyboard. You can just hold control and it'll match your car speed with the car in front of you. I like that. That's cool. That's great. More of that. Question is, I don't know if it's going to be a fun game to play over the course of 20 hours or not. It seems to be a really silly, lighthearted take on what they put forward in the first game, this kind of playful, light sandbox with, how to describe it as like light Deus Ex elements. You can hack things and affect the environment in big ways. You can point at a car and make it drive backwards, or you can hack a pipe in the ground like I did, and it'll explode. So it just turns an open world. It gives you sort of a light God mode and empowers you the more you get into the game. How that lasts over the course of 20 hours or however long it takes, I don't know. But I'm at least certain it's going to be some goofy fun. I mean, you can make a playlist and Marcus can put his earbuds in while he's sneaking around. So it's not a game I don't think anyone's going to take seriously, or it takes itself too seriously. So it has that going for it. And I'm looking forward to playing more, especially on our LPC. I'm going to crank it up to 4K and see how nice I can get it looking. Anyway, stay tuned to PC Gamer for more Watch Dogs 2 coverage. We'll have our review as soon as we can. Thanks for watching.